Michael. This week's passage from Rays of One Light, week 34, is how should we meet our test? Tests, plural. It'd be nice if we only had one test, wouldn't it? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness within your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. Last week, we considered Satan's temptation of Jesus in the wilderness. After his baptism by John, we discussed the question, does Satan exist? All of us experience temptation of one kind or another in our lives, some of us frequently, others only occasionally. Whether temptations come to us from our own subconsciousness or from outside ourselves is secondary to the fact that it does come and that we must deal with it. More important, then, is the question, how to deal with it. In fact, how to deal with tests of any kind. Martin Luther flung an inkpot at the devil who happened to test him. A dark stain on the wall of Luther's cell is pointed out to tourists in support of this story. Unfortunately, our trials are not often so summarily dismissed. As a fellow monk once said to Swami Kriyananda, speaking of Satan, if only I could get my hands on him. Jesus, during his temptations in the wilderness, overcame them and thereby set an example for all time by clinging the more determinedly to God. As Paramhansa Yogananda used to say, darkness cannot be driven out of a room with a stick. Once you turn on the light, however, the darkness will vanish as though it has never been. Jesus manifested this principle, the Bible tells us, therefore at last the devil leaveth him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him. In the Bhagavad Gita, the point is clarified further by the added explanation that there are three qualities in human nature: sattvic, or spiritual elevation; rajasic, or ego activating; and tamasic, or spiritually darkening. It is this triune aspect of human nature that the third chapter refers to within their words. As fire is hidden by smoke, as a mirror is dulled by rust, and as an embryo is enclosed in the womb, so is the indwelling self enveloped by desire. Yogananda explained that each of these examples describes one of the qualities or gunas. Sattva guna, that which elevates our consciousness, can be freed of any identity with the ego by a little puff of meditation and a right affirmation. Rajoguna, which embroils the ego in restless activity, can be worked off with a little more and a little longer effort. Tamoguna embraces, as it does, such mental states as laziness and stupidity, can only be outgrown in time, since it inhibits even the desire for self-improvements. The example Jesus gave us was intended more for those whom sattva guna is predominant. But if you yourself find elements in your consciousness that resist even the effort to cling to God in prayer and meditation, don't despair. Patience, as it has been well said, is the fastest path to God. As long as your efforts take you steadfastly in the right direction, you will come out right in time. Remember Yogananda's words, a saint is a sinner who never gave up. If, however, your nature impels you, even against your will, to move in the wrong direction towards egoic desires and away from God, strive at least to detach yourself mentally from your wrong actions, which are induced by habit. The time will come when their own stored up energy will tire and diminish. At that time, if you have not contributed to that energy, by your consenting will, you will find it possible at last to redirect your energy more constructively. Thus, through holy scriptures, God has spoken to mankind. Om. 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 What a wonderful topic. And I was listening to Jyotish talk about this, and he reflected on that each week in Rays of One Light. Often they're just little snippets, but Swami chose in this element to go quite deep into, even the teachings of the three gunas of, that are spoken about. And it's, it's quite an interesting topic, isn't it? And I think we speak about it quite often, but it's that, we can't beat the darkness with a stick. We have to turn on the light. And I think that's, this fundamental reflecting back on how should we meet our tests. And so, of course, out of history, I have to start with the dad joke. And it's about rainbows. What happens to rainbows that misbehave? They go to prism. It's a light sentence where they can reflect on themselves. Sorry about that one, guys. I had to come up with a little light joke. Yeah, it's such a powerful thing. I've been listening or reading the New Path by Nayaswami, and it's prominent throughout this book and throughout these teachings that this element, and I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into it this week about this. What does it mean? Darkness cannot be driven out of a room with a stick. Once you turn on the light, however, the darkness will vanish. And so if we look at this in relation to how should we meet our tests, there's a kind of a little hint there. And one of the interesting things that stood out to me listening to reading this wonderful book by Asher on Swami and Swami's life. And it talked about Ananda and Ananda village, and it talked about how, even during this age of energy, and if you've ever read the books on the yugas, it also talks about this age of energy that people will start being around or wanting to group with like-minded people. And communities are becoming, whether it's at a local level, like community, clubs or like-minded people's communities have become something quite interesting. But why has Ananda, from a spiritual perspective, stood out from other communities, and why has it been successful? And particularly over a long period of time, like we're coming up to, 50 odd years of community that Swami put together. And that's quite significant in relation to our spiritual community and its ability to last. And what stood out to me, and it was kind of just a passing comment, but it was the fact that if you think about building a community, and if you just take a moment inwardly to think about why you would want to live in a spiritual community or the concept of a spiritual community, it would all be rainbows and unicorns, wouldn't it? It'd be the fact that we live in beautiful groomed gardens. We have this utopia feeling of, satsang every morning and spiritual growth with each other and singing around the campfire, singing Kumbaya. This is this utopia vision of what spiritual community is. But Asha in this book talks about the fact that the reason why Ananda has been successful is it recognizes truth. It recognizes that we are all on this planet and we all have to deal with the three gunas. We all have to deal with challenges. We all have to deal with the ups and downs of life. We can't escape it. And so going into a community with the understanding that we have to take on those challenges and we have to do it, is why Ananda has been so successful. It's recognizing the fact that it won't be utopian. There will be challenges. And if you think about the story of Ananda and the building of the village, it was a short period of time before it was all burned to the ground. And that's probably, what we talk about most, but there have been other challenges within that period of time. And as you keep reading about the new path and about the building of Ananda community, Swami had this an amazing will that we talked about in our affirmation, energy and enthusiasm for light. Everything that he did was about light. And if you read the book or many of the books, it talks about how even within the community, he did not give any energy to anything that was going to draw downward to that tamasic realm. All his energy focused on moving upwards. And if you look at the history of anyone that brought that negative energy and couldn't uplift themselves, ended up moving on. And he didn't have to ask them to move on. They moved on because there was no energy given to it. Everything that he did, he gave this upward energy. And Nayaswami Devi talked about it. She said when they lost their home, they just had a new baby, they lost everything, clothing, food, they had absolutely nothing. And she rightly and honestly said, like at that period of time, I had doubts. I pulled, that was a big test. And the words that Swami came through were, and I'm paraphrasing here, and probably interpreting it from an Australian perspective, but he basically said, "Oh, how are you, Davey? Oh, that's good. Keep going." Like it was such a positive affirmation of moving forward. And as Davey talked about the reflection of the building of Ananda and the building of community, she talked about that every test was met with one of the elements of God, whether it was love, whether it was power, whether it was joy. And she spoke to this one of power because she said it's not that warm, fuzzy feeling, but Swami had that ability to give you and send you that power energy, which is an aspect of God. But every fight, every test was dealt with one of the aspects of God. And as we go through it, it goes back to everything that we've spoken about over the weeks. There is no rest. We're either moving up or we're moving back. And this tamasic pull is the darkness. It's the darkness that we have built over lifetimes. That's every single piece of karma that we've ever dealt with is this darkness. And we have a choice. We can sit and dwell in that period of time. Like it's the hardest. It's the one that we don't recognize. But the more we put the light into it and we move up towards the sattvic world and that the great scale of moving up and down, that's it. It's not giving any amounts of energy to it. It's very easy. And you can reflect on something right now. If you think about just waking up in the morning and you had this scale, and you woke up, sometimes when we wake up, it's, oh, geez, I'm achy. Oh, I didn't have a very good sleep last night. Where do you think the scale gets tipped? It's that tamasic side. Oh, got to go to work. I don't want to get up to go to work. Where does the scale tip? Oh, I didn't grab eggs this morning. I can't have eggs on toast. I'm going to just have to have Vegemite on toast. And through our day, we're balancing this scale of up and down. Our tendency will always be to that tamasic side, the darkness side, because that's what we've grabbed attachments to. That's what we've enlightened or we've brought in amongst us. And if you think about how we could tip the scale in the way that Swami and Ananda has been built, it's waking up in the morning and go, wow, what an amazing day. I'm going to forget this body that I'm in and I'm going to make the most of it. God's given me these gifts. I've got everything that I need. It's an affirmation. It's an affirmation of moving forward. And the best part about this path is, oh, geez, don't have eggs, but boy, I'm going to make a great smoothie this morning because that's all I've got. Or what a blessing to the world. Vegemite was invented. But see the difference. We're raising our energy. We're moving it from the subconscious, which is where that tamasic world is, to the conscious, to the superconscious. We make a conscious effort to move that energy and magnetize it upwards. And Davey challenges everybody in that every time you feel that you've got a challenge, look at what its opposing force is. Look at what it could be drawn into and how long it would take. And for an example, if you think about in today's world, the fire that burnt down Ananda village and the fact that there was a lawsuit that could have compensated them for that, and Swami chose not to, think of it from that scale perspective. If you chose, which you could have done from a financial reason, to challenged it, taken it to court, put it in energy in. So what would happen? Energy goes into lawyers. Energy goes into fighting it. Energy goes into actually having to bring up how much you suffered. All these things over time, would it have taken a short period of time or a long period of time? Probably a longer period of time. Probably a longer period of time to move forward and get on with life and start building that energy back up to re-establishing it, to putting it into positive elements to it. And Davey talked about that in that at that period of time, what did they do? That was a great sorrow, but Swami decided to do the joy tour. He decided to put a group of people from Ananda, travel around America and spread joy. Not only did that uplift the rest of the world, it uplifted their souls. It also brought money back in to re-establishing Ananda. So it's that whole concept. We dabble with it all the time, and there's some great viewpoints from a different, like from a worldly perspective on this. It's like how many people want to go to work that have children. Next thing you know they have to go to work, but all the money that they actually work for goes towards babysitting or childcare. And then it's like, well, what am I doing here? It's like the people that want to get a job with lots and lots of money, but then on that, they have to live the lifestyle of lots and lots of money. And I think they did a study on the corporate world. It was pre COVID, so no one really worked from home. But you think of the cost involved in a corporate world of can't just go to a local, to Kmart and buy clothes. You have to have, to be in that corporate world, you've got to have the good shoes and the suits and the outfits and the makeup and the hair. And you've then got to have the right car to get you to the train station. Then you've got to get on the train that costs you a fortune to and from work. And then, of course, you've got to have, the sushis and the expensive lunches to go with it or go out with it. And so by the time you earn this amount of money, everything gets dragged down accordingly and you're back where you started from. And I think at the time, this study showed that you could literally go and work in a cafe or work at a supermarket stacking shelves. By the time you balanced it out and had more time, it was a time-money relationship in life. So I think that's the same with this. It's like, well, what happens? What if we choose to go down that path? What if a challenge hits us and we go, oh, woe is me? By the time you spiral all the way down, thinking about all the bad things that are going to happen and how you're going to get revenge, the hatred of that person or the thing that's come upon it, who's it damaging? It's not damaging anyone else but yourself. You're spiraling down this pathway. And then before you know it, you're in this pathway thinking, oh, well, this is going to cost me money because I'm going to get them back. And then it's going to take time and energy and effort to get them back or that, fight against the thing that's just happened to me. And then I'm going to Oh, and now I'm feeling horrible at the end of the day. I can't sleep, so I'm probably going to have to go to the doctors and get some medication to help me sleep, or self-medicate with alcohol or drugs or whatever it takes, because I've got to feel up. I'm feeling down because I deserve it. I deserve this because that person did something to me. And you can see this spiral. This is just an example of the spiral that goes down. And it goes back to the Swami, like, well, at some point you're going to hit rock bottom and go, was that all that worth it? I haven't really heard many people. You'll get to a point even with a court battle or something that goes on and go, at some point, I probably should have just let that go because it's now cost me more money than I actually should have bought in. And if you replace that with energy, then it's the same thing. And you think about, well, who did ultimately that affect? It only affected me, but then it also dragged everyone else around me down because my family thought I was ignoring them and, not around for them. And my friends thought I was crazy or angry all the time. So they didn't really want to spend time with me. It affected me because I couldn't sleep at night and I couldn't do these things. That's the tamasic pool that we've built over lifetimes. It's just this energy that's sitting there. It's the dark cave. But if you think about it in the first place and you think, you know what, they're doing their best. This is meant to be a happen. I can learn and get above this, or I can be around people. So this is that community aspect of it. It's recognizing that we all have these things. Every single one of us has the darkness. Every single one of us has these tamasic pools because it's where we are. But being on the path that we're on, whether it's this time or last lifetimes or lifetimes before, we've recognized that there is this light that's going to take over this. We've recognized that the answer to all of this is God and that we need to find God. And we need to magnetize that. We've got these amazing gurus that are also shining their light on us. If you think about that, 25, 25, 50, it's light. Replace that with a percentage of light. We shine our 25% life. The magnetism of the guru shines their 25, and then God fills it, making 100%. But we've got to shine our light bright. We've got to help each other in all that we do. But first, our community within us, we have to fight those ourselves. We've got to find that willpower, find that energy to uplift everything that we do. And it's a wonderful challenge that Davey put out is every time that you feel a negativity, think of an aspect of God that is opposing it and see how you can reflect and look at that and shine the light out of the darkness and see what happens and see what happens around you in relation to those things. But going back to the original question, how should we meet our tests? That's how we should meet them. We should meet them with the aspects of God. Everything that we should be doing is with the aspects of God. And as a group, we should be helping each other. It's that helping each other when there's a negativity or somebody talking about something in a negative way or pulling us down. Don't give it energy. You don't have to be negative back because that's matching it with darkness. It's the beating out with the stick. It's the ignoring it and replacing it with light. It's showing the brightness of your own light and bringing up that element of what we need to do. And so we can do it within ourselves. That's that battle of the guitar. We can energize, we can feel it, we can and shine that light upon us. And then as a collective group, we can help each other out in that element. It's one more story from Jyotish and Davy. Jyotish and Davy obviously have contacts with people over the world. They received a letter that was quite harsh and negative. It was quite a nitpicking letter, and they did the right thing. They looked at it and they went, well, if there's an element of truth, we need to change. And they went to Swami and showed him the letter, and they said to Swami, have you got any counsel? What do you think we should do? If this is something that we need to do, what should we change? And Swami said to Davy and Jyotish, well, you're doing your best. And so Davy was a bit like, well, what does that mean? Doing my best. And so she wasn't quite happy with that. And she goes, well, what about them? Is this something that, was there, truth behind that? And Swami just answered them, well, they're doing their best. They're doing what they know. They're doing their best. And then Davy was like, wow, that I'm starting to grasp that. And she said, oh, well, thank you, Swami, for sharing that. And he goes, well, I'm doing my best. And so it is that element. We all have this tamasic pull. We all have this. And it's about shining a light. It's not about dwelling in this darkness. It's that there is only one way or the other. There's nothing in between. We can't sit on the fence with this. It's like we can either get pulled down into that or we can up and be in the light with ourselves, but also as a community and within this community and all that we do. So such a wonderful insight into the way that we can move forward. So I thought I'd finish today with a Whispers reading from Whispers of Eternity, and it's from number 66. It's number 66. It's called Burn Thou My Frailties in the Furnace of Trials. In the furnace of trials, the ore of my life is being purified. The fire of experience melts away all my delusions dross. O divine artisan, burn away all my impurities. Bring out in me the steel of endurance and hone in to a fine edge by deep calmness. Forge in me from the tempered steel of mental balance, sharp swords of self-control and firm tenacity, with the weapon of equilibrium. Teach me to fight every enemy of destruction. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Burn thou my frailties in the furnace of trials. Be grateful to be able to learn and move forward. Yes. Well, thank you all for coming today. It's such a joy to have you all. And what a wonderful group. Let's finish today's service. It's 11 o'clock, so let's finish today's service with